Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Emma and I make art videos. In today's video, I am going to show you all how to draw the profile view of a portrait. And before I start, I do just want to say I am in no way an expert. This is just what I've learned over time and I thought I would share it with you all. So to start with, you want to draw a circle. And since we are drawing a profile view, we do want to kind of draw in the jaw as well. So generally, depending on which side you're drawing, for me, I'm going to draw down on the left-hand side and then bring that kind of back up into the circle, not all the way across because the jaw doesn't go all the way to the back of the circle. And then we're drawing in the lines to figure out where the eyes, nose, and mouth are going to go. So the line for the eyes is generally halfway between the circle from the top and the bottom. The nose is then halfway between the eye line and then the bottom, and then the mouth is a bit under that. So seeing this is probably going to be easier than me explaining this. And for this portrait, the profile view was slightly angled. So you can see I'm drawing in a line which is basically supposed to be the center of the face. But it's basically only of the forehead, but for the image that I was drawing from, you could slightly see where that was, but depending on how much of a profile you're drawing, you might not even have that line there. I then block in where the ear is going to go, and then once I've kind of got all of these construction lines down, I then start going in with some more detail. Whenever I'm drawing a portrait, I like to start with the brow bone, and I have mentioned this in other videos before. I did film a video for how I draw a portrait front on, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned the same thing in that video. But I find getting in the kind of brow bones really help in kind of blocking in the rest of the face. So for this piece, I'm working on the brow bone as well as the angle of the nose. But here I'm drawing in the other brow bone, or kind of where the eyebrow is going to go, and just really working on the angle of the brow that is further away and the angle of the nose. And the brow bones are generally going to start around where that eye line is. And then once I'm happy with the brow bone and the nose shape, I then figure out where other lines are going to be in relation to other things. So just now I drew in the nostril, and I'm figuring out that the nostril is a little bit further to the right in comparison to where the eyebrow starts. And then here I'm drawing in the eye, and the inside corner of the eye sits a little bit further than the nostril in comparison. I think a really good way to figure out where certain things are is to see how they relate to other parts of the drawing. So, looking to see where the nostril lines up with the eyebrow, where the eye lines up with the eyebrow, and the kind of area where the brow bone and the nose meet at the top. And then when drawing, the mouth, see where the corner of the mouth lines up with the eyes and the nose, if that makes sense. If I say something in this video and it doesn't really make sense to you, please leave a comment. It is quite difficult to explain how to draw something to someone when I'm not sitting there with you. I find that would be a lot easier, so if something isn't that clear, leave a comment and I will try my best to explain what I mean. But yeah, like I said, it's difficult when I'm not sitting there with you and kind of showing you how to do that. And I'm also recording this voiceover after drawing this drawing, so it's not like I'm doing the voiceover while I'm actually drawing the portrait. So here I am blocking in where the actual nostril hole goes. When I mentioned nostril before, I meant kind of like the edge of the nostril. And when you're drawing the nostril hole, you really want to be aware of the angles. Don't draw what you think you see. You might just think, oh, the nostril hole is just like a funny looking shape. But you really want to make sure that you are drawing the correct angles. And to help with drawing those angles, you want to see how they relate to other parts of the drawing. I'm going to keep saying this. It's something that I actually learned while I was at university, and it really helped me improve my drawing skills and take me to the next level. So hopefully it makes sense to you. It would be easier to kind of explain that if I was sitting next to you and helping you actually draw that way. But hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, maybe I'll make another video in the future for drawing things in relation to other things. If you would like to see a video on that basic concept, please let me know and I will try and make it. When you're in the beginning stages of drawing a portrait or anything realistic, you do want to kind of use a lighter hand. For this drawing, I am actually pressing harder than I normally would, just so that you can all actually see what I'm doing. In my previous drawing tutorial video, a lot of people were saying that they couldn't see what I was doing. But I like to use a light hand so that I can erase lines if I need to, but for this drawing I did make sure to press a bit harder just so you can actually see what I'm doing, and I was able to erase lines that I needed to, but I would generally draw a lot lighter than this. So again, I'm going in with some more detail, but you still want to draw lightly while you're doing this. You want to basically draw the whole thing in a light hand, and once you're like 100% happy with it, then you can kind of go in with darker details. A mistake I see people make is they will start, drawing a portrait and then they go in and just do a lot of detail on one eye, and then they go in with detail on the other eye, and then they realize, hang on, those eyes are slightly off, and basically they just, wasted a bunch of time putting in all of that effort into the detail when they just didn't have those eyes in the right spot. So you want to make sure you have everything in the correct position before you go in with a lot of detail. So even here you can see I'm doing some shading. I'm just doing a light layer of shading on the eye makeup and the pupil and things like the eyebrow as well, but I'm not going in too dark. I can still erase those areas if I need to. Whenever I'm drawing a portrait, I do like to make sure that I have the eyes and the nose in correctly before I start working on the mouth. So here I'm pretty happy with the position of the eyes and the nose and the angles and everything, so I'm just drawing in the forehead, and then I'm going to get started on the mouth. And like I was saying before, I like to draw things in relation to other things in the drawing. So here I'm figuring out where the corner of the mouth is going to go. So looking at my reference image, the corner of the mouth is actually between where the edge of the nostril is and the start, like the inner corner of the eye is. So it actually falls between those two things, pretty much in the center. So I know that the mouth is gonna sit somewhere along that line. And I put a dot down where I think it's gonna go. But here I'm drawing in the angles of the, like above the lip and the top lip, and also the line between the lips. And by drawing this in, I realized that the corner of the mouth is actually slightly lower than where I put it. So I was very close, but it's just a little bit lower. But I know that the mouth is going to stop at that point because we figured out that the corner of the mouth falls between where the edge of the nostril is and the inner corner of the eye. Once I'm happy with the shape of the top lip, I then go in with the shape of the bottom lip, and I started drawing it in, and first I was like, I don't know if this is looking right. It kind of just looked a bit too big, but you'll see shortly that I realized the line kind of between the lips wasn't thick enough because there was a bit of shadow there. So without that kind of shadowed area, the bottom lip looked like massive, but once I added in the extra shadow, it looked right. So that's another thing. You might have your lines down right, but it might look a bit weird because you might need to thicken up certain lines to kind of make up for shadowed areas, because something that's done just all line work and there's no, line weight to those lines, it can look a bit off, but those lines still might be in the right spot. You just need that line work. So after adding in that kind of shadow on the bottom lip, I could tell that I actually had it in the right spot. It just looked a bit weird beforehand because I didn't have the thicker line there. Here is when I realized that I actually started drawing the whole face too large, and for me this wasn't an issue because I was like, I'm just gonna make the head a little bit bigger. So if you are, drawing something and it needs to be a particular size, be aware of the size of like the facial features, like the nose and the eyes and the mouth. For me, this wasn't an issue because I could just fix it up. It's not majorly off, like you can tell it is off, but I don't have to make too many changes. I just lowered where the jawline is. I have to move the ear over a little bit, and the back of the head, kind of goes more to the right. So for me, it's an easy fix, and as you can see, I also make mistakes. This is pretty common, especially if I'm drawing a profile view. Sometimes I will find that I have, like, my construction lines are kind of off, and this happens when I'm drawing anything sometimes, I'm not perfect, I do make mistakes, but I know how to kind of fix these mistakes. And for this one, it's not a major one. I was happy with the face itself, so rather than going in and drawing the entire face again, I just need to fix up the jawline, the ear, and the back of the head. So here I'm just drawing in the jaw, the ear, the back of the neck, as well as the head, because I'm pretty happy with the proportions of the face. I'm just drawing everything else in. So again, be aware of your lines and the angles and everything like that. If you haven't noticed yet, this is actually a self-portrait. The easiest way to find a good reference image is to just take a photo of yourself. If you're okay with doing that, you can find images online, but I know this way it is, definitely, not copyrighted to someone else. This is my own image, and that's sometimes the easiest way to get around that. If you're worried about drawing an image that might be copyrighted, if you draw from your own reference images, you don't have to worry about that at all. Here I'm drawing in the hair, and for kind of like the hair in this drawing, I wasn't going in with too much detail. My main focus was, the face and kind of just showing you all how to draw those construction lines. But with the hair, you don't want to draw every single individual hair. You kind of just want to show the group of hairs, and some lines are okay to go in there, but you're not drawing every individual piece of hair. You're drawing it as kind of like a clump together, but you also want to show the direction of the hair as well. That's really important. For this image, I had my hair in a bun, so all of the hair is basically going from my scalp pulled all the way back, and the bun is just like kind of messy, and again, I wasn't putting in too much detail with that. And here I'm just going in and erasing my construction lines. So once you are completely happy with your drawing, it is a good idea to erase the construction lines. If you want to, you don't have to, but it'll just make the drawing look a lot cleaner. And another thing actually about the hair, you want to make sure that the hair isn't exactly along the scalp. If you're drawing someone that doesn't have any hair, then obviously you want to draw the shape of the skull, basically. But with hair, the hair is going to sit further out, because the hair is, unless you're drawing someone with really flat hair, it's going to kind of, stick out a bit from the skull, if that makes sense. So yeah, here I am erasing lines, and once I'm done erasing those lines, I then go in with a bit more detail. I'm still not going in with some really dark detail, because there's some areas that I just need to fix up still with a lighter hand. So here I am drawing in the inside of the ear, because I hadn't done that yet. I'm not a huge fan of drawing ears. I don't mind it. I don't think they're hard to draw. I just don't really like to draw them. So I just put the basic shape in there, And another bit that I needed to kind of fix up was the area above the nose. I needed to kind of draw in, I think it's called the Cupid's bow, that line, and just fix that up. And I actually normally wear a septum ring, and in this photo I was wearing my septum ring, but I decided to not include it just so that you guys could see kind of the nose area better. So once I'm happy with that, I'm then going in and darkening up the lines. I'm not sure if you noticed this, but I am darkening up the lines on the left-hand side of the drawing, and that's because I'm right-handed. And I don't want to go in with dark lines on the right side because then my hand might lean on that and smudge it. So depending on what hand you use, I recommend drawing in a way where you're not going to, smudge your work. So most of these lines, I am pretty happy with them. I'm just going in and darkening them up. I'm not doing any shading just yet. I might shade in the lips now actually. Yeah, I just do some light shading. But as for like shading on the face, I leave that till later. I'm just going in and sharpening up those lines and giving them some more definition. And when you're up to this stage in your drawing, you do want to make sure that you're drawing these darker lines in correctly. So you want to make sure you're looking at your reference image, and even though you might have your lines down where you're pretty happy with them, when you're sketching, you're generally going to use a lighter hand, and it might be, not so particular. So for example, with the eye, I have the rough shape down, but when I'm blocking in the darker areas, I'm really looking at my reference image and making sure that I'm putting the darker areas in correctly and keeping the lighter areas where they are. You really want to make sure that you're looking at your reference image when you're drawing anything realistically, especially when you're drawing in the details. I can't stress that enough. You don't want to draw what you think you see, you want to draw what you actually see, because you might think something might be a particular way, but it's actually slightly different in the reference image, if that makes sense. So look at your reference image and just kind of even look at it in a way where you're not seeing a portrait. Look at it in a way, of it being shapes and shades and angles. Don't think I'm drawing an eye. Think, how does this angle relate to another angle? And what area is black and what area is white and what area is a middle tone, and that kind of thing. Now I'm just going in and defining more of the lines on the back of the head, so the ear, the hair, and that kind of thing. And for this piece, I'm not going in with super realistic shading. You might be able to tell it's mainly just white, black, and a middle tone. If you wanted to do more realistic shading, you'd have to just go in with more detail, but this video is more about, kind of the construction of the face. So hopefully this video has made some kind of sense. Like I said at the start, I'm not a professional. This is just what I know and what I have learnt. So if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. So yeah, here I'm just kind of defining more of the lines on the hair. I do go in with a little bit of shading on the hair to show that it is darker than the skin. And then I go in with some light shading on the face. And again, you want to look at the angles and you want to know how the bone structure works, because that will help you understand the shading on the face. So, you've got the shading for where the cheekbone is. I do a little bit of shading under the nose, and again, you want to kind of, know how that angle works, and it will vary depending on what nose you're working on. There's some shading under the lips, and the other area is the shading under the eye. That's probably the area that's the darkest, but again, this is very light shading. This is just kind of my style, and this video was more focusing on the structure and the line work rather than, super realistic shading. Maybe I'll do a video in the future on, different ways to shade in a realistic way. Anyway, this video is going to be ending shortly, so I just wanted to say thank you for watching. Hopefully this video helped. If you have any questions, I'll leave them in the comments below. If there are any more drawing tutorial videos that you'd like to see from me, please let me know. And that is basically all from me today. So thanks for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I will see you all in my next video.